And here we are again, together, reading Romeo and Juliet. So we're moving on to our fourth scene in this first act, and we are back on a street with the Montague boys. So we have a Romeo, and we have Benvolio, right, his cousin who we've already met, but then there's this guy in the middle, right, his name is Mercutio, and he is known to be like Romeo's slightly eccentric friend, really close friend. So both of these guys are super close to Romeo, and you're going to see when you meet Mercutio in this first appearance. In his first appearance, he's going to come off like a little bit wackadoo, and I think that's on purpose. He's going to go off into this like pretty big like symbolic rant about Queen Mab, this, the fairy of dreams. And he does have a point, but stick with me as we read it and we'll see if we can break it down together. But they're, if you look at it, with 5 or 6 maskers, torchbearers, and others. So they're all in masks. They're walking down the street with torches. And of course, they're going to the party. Who knew, right? We kind of all anticipated this would happen. So let's kind of read through. I'll try to stop like I have been doing in spots and clarify some things for you. So Romeo starts this. What? Shall this speech be spoke for our excuse? Or shall we on without an apology? Benvolio responds, the date is out of such prolixity. We'll have no Cupid hoodwinked with a scarf, bearing a Tartar's painted bow of lath, scarring the ladies like a crow-keeper, nor know without book prologue faintly spoke after the prompter for our entrance, but let them measure us by what they wilt. We'll measure them a measure and be gone. So Romeo's asking, what are we going to tell them, for an excuse, or who are we going to say we are? How are we going to apologize for coming? If they recognize us, like they'll probably kick us out. And Benvolio's like, that doesn't happen anymore. We don't have to give an excuse. We don't have to have anybody announce us or say we're coming or tell them who we are. Let's just walk in. Let's just walk in and we'll measure them. They'll measure us. And if anything bad happens, we'll just get out of there, right? So that's what they're talking about there. Romeo says, give me a torch. I am not for this ambling. But being but heavy, I will bear the light. That's a little bit of a pun right there, a play on words. Being but heavy, I will bear the light. He means the actual torch, the light that's guiding them. But because he said heavy, light is the opposite. I want something that's light. A little bit of a pun there. Mercutio says, nay, gentle Romeo, we must have you dance. Not I, believe me. You have dancing shoes with nimble soles. I have a soul of lead. No, so stakes me to the ground. I cannot move. So again, playing on words here, soles of the shoes, but I have a soul of lead. Again, we're seeing Romeo sort of staying in his pity party mode right here. And Mercutio's, he's too fun. He's, a good friend. And he says, you are a lover. Borrow Cupid's wings and soar with them above a common bound. I am too sore impierced with his shaft to soar with his light feathers and so bound. I cannot bound a pitch above dull woe. Under love's heavy burden do I sink. So again, Romeo's doing his play on words. I am too sore and pierced with his shaft, like with Cupid's, right? Cupid's arrow. He's hurting because he's been stabbed with this arrow, and he can't soar with the feathers. So if you need examples of puns, Romeo's tossed them out. He's dishing them out right here pretty heavily. And you notice he's still sort of sad. And to sink in it, should you burden love, too great oppression for a tender thing. Is love a tender thing? It is too rough, too rude, too boisterous, and it pricks like thorn. So we're sort of personifying love here. We're also using a simile here if we're practicing figurative language, and you guys have that figurative language chart to practice with. These are some good examples to get you practicing those types of figurative language. Hopefully you find your own and don't just take the ones I'm sharing with you, but if you get stuck, there are some gimmies right there. All right, so we'll continue on. Mercutio says, if love be rough with you, be rough with love. Prick love for pricking, and you beat love down. Give me a case to put my visage in, a visor for a visor. What care I? What curious eye doth quoth deformities? Here are the beetle brows, shall blush for me. So he's going to put his mask away. He doesn't need it. Come, knock and enter, and no sooner in, but every man betake him to his legs. A torch for me, let wantons light of heart tickle the senses, rushes with their heel, the senseless rushes with their heels. For I am proverbed with a Grandshire phrase, I'll be a candle holder and look on. The game was never so fair, and I am done. Right? I'm just gonna go in and hold this torch. I'm not gonna partake in any fun. I'm over it. Tut, duns the mouse, the constable's own word. If thou art done, we'll draw thee from the mire of this sire reverence love, wherein thou stickest up to the ears. Come, we burn daylight ho. Nay, that's not so. I mean, sir, in delay, we waste our lights in vain, like lamps by day. Take our good meaning, for our judgment sits 5 times in that air once in our 5 wits. And we mean well in going to this mask, but 'tis no wit to go. Why, may one ask? I dreamed a dream tonight, and so did I. Well, what was yours? That dreamers often lie. In bed asleep, while they do dream things true. All right, we're going to pause here because we're about to read Mercutio's response to this conversation that he's having with Romeo, right? If you kind of circle back, how did this start? We better hurry up. We're going to be late. And he says tis no wit to go, right? And you know about wit, and that's a synonym for being smart, intelligence, right? So it's not smart to go. We shouldn't be going. And Mercutio's just, why not? And Romeo's saying, I had a dream. It wasn't good enough to go. We shouldn't be going. Mercutio is just kind of playing along with him. Oh yeah, and so did I. And what was yours? And Mercutio is saying dreamers often lie. This is a key line that you want to keep in mind because it tends to be his major point of everything he's about to say, right? That dreamers often lie. And Romeo, again, because he's just such a punny guy, he says, oh yeah, in bed asleep, while they do dream things true, because they lie in bed, right? So he's just playing off of words here. But Mercutio is going to kind of hit him back with, no, let me tell you what I mean here. So just hold on a bit. This is a little bit of a weird, symbolic passage that Mercutio is about to, explain. He says, oh, then I see Queen Mab hath been with you. She is the fairy's midwife, and she comes in shapes no bigger than an agate stone, on the forefinger of an alderman, drawn with a team of little atomies, athwarts men's noses as they lie asleep, her wagon spokes made of long spiders' legs. The cover of the wings of grasshoppers, the traces of the smallest spider's web, the collars of the moonshine's watery beams, her whip of cricket's bone, the lash of film, her wagoner a small gray-coated gnat, not so big as a round little worm, pricked from the lazy finger of a maid. Her chariot is an empty hazelnut shell, made by the joiner squirrel or old grub. Time out, O mine, the fairies' coachmakers, and in this state she gallops night by night through lovers' brains, and then they dream of love. O'er courtiers' knees that dream on courtesies straight, over lawyers' fingers who straight dream on fees, over ladies' lips who straight on kisses dream, which oft the angry Mab with blistered plagues, because their breaths with sweet meats tainted are. Sometimes she gallops over a courtier's nose, and then dreams he of smelling out a suit, and sometimes comes she with a tith pig's tail, tickling a parson's nose, as a lies asleep. Then dreams he of another benefice. Sometimes she driveth over a soldier's neck, and then he dreams of cutting foreign throats, of breaches, ambuscados, Spanish blades, of Helps 5 fathom deep, and then anon drums in his ear, at which he starts and wakes, and being thus frightened swears a prayer or two, and sleeps again. This is that very Mab that plats the manes of horses in the night, and bakes the elf locks in foul sluttish hairs, which once untangled much misfortune bodes. This is the hag, when maids lie on their backs, that presses them and learns them first to bear, making them women of good carriage. This is she. Right? And Romeo's saying, peace, Mercutio, peace, thou talks of nothing. So we can kind of go back through and see he's just describing this little, Queen Mab, this fairy of dreams, and, describes how small she is, all this imagery here, saying that all of these things that her carriage is made of. It almost, is reminiscent of a Cinderella, story, this carriage, right? Taking her, into the night, into all of these people's dreams. And if you notice anything about what she's saying about what she brings to people, I think the one good example that you might be able to kind of figure out, she says, she drives over a soldier's neck and he dreams of cutting foreign throats, right? And, and of all of these weapons and of health, and, right, he's dreaming of what he wants, and the win. He's dreaming of something that he's wishing for, he's desiring. So she's giving them what they want in their dreams, as his point right here. And then, Romeo is saying, you talk of nothing. And he says, true, I talk of dreams, which are the children of an idle brain, begot of nothing but vain fantasy, which is as thin of substance as the air, and more inconsistent than the wind, whose woes even now the frozen bosom of the north, and being angered, puffs away from thence, turning his face to the dew-dropping south. Right? So, dreams are the children of an idle brain, right? Wicked good metaphor there. That's great. And, nothing but vain fantasy, right? You're dreaming of all these things that you want, but they're not true. You're right. I do talk of nothing. Dreams are pretty much nothing. And Benvolio is trying to interrupt. This wind you talk of blows us from ourselves. Supper is done and we shall come too late. Like, we'll get to the party too late, guys. Stop talking. And Romeo says, I fear too early, for my mind misgives some consequence, yet hanging in the stars, shall bitterly begin his fearful date. With this night's revels, and expires the term of a despised life closed in my breast, by some vile forfeit of untimely death. But he that hath the steerage of my course, direct my sail. Oh, on, lusty gentlemen! Strike drum, and then they go. Boom, they exit, right? And they're kind of going into the party. So, you heard Mercutio say, dreams don't mean anything. They're just, idle fantasy. Benvolio's like, we're going to be late. And then Romeo, it's really interesting. He's saying his mind misgives some consequence, yet hanging in the stars. Is that ironic or what, right? He feels like the stars, which is how we talk about fate, right? That there's some kind of consequence in the fate of all of this, right? Shall bitterly begin his fearful date. This consequence, now it's being personified because it's being given a male pronoun, that, whatever consequence is waiting for him is going to begin tonight, is what he's saying. That's very interesting foreshadowing of your own demise, Romeo. And he even says up here, or down here, he says, by some vile forfeit of untimely death. Right? He might not realize that he's going to be the one, to kill himself, but he's saying, I got this gut feeling. I had this instinct, this feeling that something bad's going to happen if we go to this party. But you know what? I'm going to let, he says, but he that hath the steerage of my course direct my sail. I'm going to let fate, I'm going to let the universe, I'm going to let, all of that sort of take me as it will. Here we go. Let's go to the party. And they continue to go, despite his, gut feeling that maybe something is not quite right. So some pretty interesting foreshadowing there. And hopefully walking through that together, it helped you get through Mercutio's, crazy spiel that he has on in this scene. It's really him just blabbering on, making the point that dreams lie to us. So don't believe your dreams. I hope you got everything you needed. If you didn't, please reach out. I'm only an email away. Don't forget to do your active reading chart and start to fill in some of those figurative language examples. And I will see you all on Thursday. Sorry, not Thursday, on Friday. Didn't mean to confuse you there. I'll see you then.